Angry Faithful. This is just to let you know there's more than one way that you can check in on the different types of degree of fuckery we get into. You can go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, or just watch us on YouTube or Rumble. Don't forget to like, share, and comment where you can, or just leave 5 stars on Apple Podcast. We thrive on things like absolution from our audience, but see if we can get this steamrolled into something big. We're depending on you. Thank you for watching. Now let us begin.
Welcome, Angry Faithful. Today on Psychos and Sociopaths, I'm going to do this alone. Sorry about if everybody was busy on this one except for me because, you know, I am what you cannot kill. I have no life. Anyways, today we're actually going to go talk about Katherine Knight. Honestly, the first time I saw this, I was thinking of the chick from Pirates of the Caribbean, Kathleen Knightley. I was like, what did she do? But no, this is actually brought to us by our super fan, Maria. And we all know that she helps out as much as possible. And it's one of those extra ones. And I like to do a shout out to her on this one. But we're going to get it going, see how it goes and everything like that. Katherine Knight, she was born October 24th, 1955, is the first Australian, God, I can't stop doing that. Australian, now I can't even stay in Australia. Australian woman to be sentenced to life in prison without parole. She was convicted for the murder of her partner, John Charles Thomas Price, in February of 2000, and is currently in prison in Silverwater Women's Correctional Center in New South Wales. Knight stabbed Prince to death, skinned him, then put his skin on a meat hook. She then cooked his head and part of his body with the intention of feeding them to Price's children, but was stopped by police. Wow. Now, I want everybody to know the process. There's little steps and everything like that I like to do. I like to actually start reading the stuff half the time. Sometimes I'll do the research really heavily on the people, and sometimes I don't. I don't want that to be like when you're listening, you're surprised with me. It's one of those things to where it seems very improbative, and you're going well, I'm going well, you're having those same feelings, and it betters the whole entertainment value of this, just to get everybody to come together and feel the same feelings when we read stuff like this. Now let's get back on to the rest of the show. Katherine Knight was born and raised in an unconventional, dysfunctional family. Most murderers are. Every time I read that, I kind of want to deamine it. I was like, dysfunctional family. Just get it over real quick. They had a fucked up life growing up. But her mother, Barbara Rowan, born Thorley? It's Thorley. Literally Thorley. Let me see the old Stephen Hawking.
Thorley.
Yeah, Thorley. Stephen Hawking voice. And if you don't keep up, it's piped up in my ear. So, had been married to Jack Rowan. Man, this is all like Lord of the Rings type stuff, except for the Thorley. Well, no, Lord of the Rings type stuff. Yeah, this is so weird. I'm just making up that connection. Lived with him in a small town of Aberdeen in South Wales Hunter Valley. Barbara and Jack had 4 sons before Barbara beginning the adulterous relationship. How's it adulterous? They were married with Ken Knight. Oh, a friend and coworker of her husband. Oh, wow. Okay, that makes sense now. See, I love reading this as I go through it and I'm getting filmed because I'm like, people are seeing it for the first time or interacting with it first time. They're looking at it and like, this guy's a moron. But it's not that I'm mentally handicapped, although I kind of am with the dyslexia and stuff like that. But that's why when I'm reading this, it comes off really messed up. This is more or less just a episode flaunting myself and better halves of my ego growing up. The Rohan and Knight families were known as conservative royal town. It was known. Why am I saying that? Anyways, the Rohan Knight families were well known in the conservative royal town, and the affair caused a major scandal. Yeah. Open relations do that. And by the way, I hate to tell you this right now, open relations just barely work. Someone gets butt hurt one day. I mean, the last time like a public one made out, yes, I'm off subject really bad, was like Scary Spice or some shit like that. One of the Spice Girls' husband they had a live-in girlfriend for both of them. And because he decided to have sex with the live-in girlfriend without his wife there, butthurt words commenced. But anyways, local backlash forced Barbara and Ken to move to Maury. None of the four sons went with her. The two eldest continued to reside with their father, while the two younger sons were sent to be raised with their aunt in Sydney. Barbara had 4 additional children with Ken, including 2 girls born in 1955 in Terrifield. Katherine Knight was the younger of the 2 twins, of these twin daughters. In 1959, when Knight was 4, Jack Rowan died, and the 2 older boys who had been living with him moved to in with Barbara and Barbara the mother, and Ken the stepfather. Knight's father was an alcoholic who openly used violence and intimidation and would rape his wife Barbara up to 10 times a day. Jesus, that's ridiculous. Man, Barbara in turn often told her daughters intimate details of her sex life and how much she hated sex and men. Well, yeah, you're in a bad way. Yeah, I'm going to stop here real quick on this one and give you my opinion. This is just my opinion. On stuff like this, a lot of people, they get they're in a relationship with somebody that's actually good with them, and they cheat on that person that is actually good with them, and we don't know much about Mr. Rohan. I'm curious. I'm sorry, people, but they mostly get
Rothan.
I messed that up. And they get into the worst possible scenario and everything like that. Sometimes I think it's karma. Sometimes I just my little opinion, just my opinion on that. But sometimes it turns out good. Sometimes it turns out horribly. And this is with Barbara Rowan, Rothan. They said Rothan. It's GH. I'm gonna say Rowan. Fuck them. It's 5-minute mark. I can say that. But she went into a even worse relationship with this other person. Often told her daughters she hated sex and men. Later, when Knight complained to her mother that one of her partners wanted her to take part in the sex act, she did not want to perform. Barbara told her, put up with it and stop complaining. This is bad motherly advice. We all agree with that. And it's bad advice for men too. You should never be with somebody that you have to put up and stop complaining on stuff like that. If you're in a situation that you don't feel comfortable with being in, taking personal stuff that I've actually went through in my own life. Get out of it. Just get out of it. Let's get back. Knight claims she was frequently sexually assaulted by several members of her family, though not by her father, which is good, I guess, which continued until she was 11. Ugh, this is already starting out to be a horror movie-esque. Getting the or thriller, I would guess it would be more or less a thriller. But getting everything ready to be the villain of the story. Although there are doubts about the details, psychologists accept her claims, and the events have been largely confirmed by other members of the family. So this actually stuff did happen. Barbara's great grandmother was an indigenous Australian. But what are they called? Hold on, I forget what they're actually a name for them. Oh, I can just click here. I have to go back. Basically like our Indians, Aborigines. That's right. Okay, the Aborigines. This is the kind of like our Indians in the United States, the Native Americans. This was kept a family secret, as there was considerable racism in the area at the time, and that's just like our country having existential racism with the Native Americans, which, if you can't tell, I'm very white, but if you go back like I think three generations away, I'm Indian, Comanche Indian. My great grandmother was full blown Indian, but I'd never had that kind of existential racism. So I never fell in that part, which it's hard to feel for those people when you don't actually grow up with that stuff. But apart from her twin sister, the only person whom Knight was close to was her uncle. Oscar Knight was a champion horseman. She devised, devastated when he committed suicide in 1969, and continued to maintain that his ghost visited her. The family moved back to Aberdeen the same year. When she attended Mola Brooks High School, Knight became a loner and remembered by her classmates as a bully who stood over small children, which most people that have horrible family lives usually are the bullies. Sad cases, really, but they shouldn't bully. She assaulted at least one boy at school with a weapon, and once injured was once injured by a teacher who was especially fond to have act in self-defense, but contrast when not in a rage. Knight was a model student and often earned awards for her good behavior. Upon leaving school at 15 without having learned to read or write, she gained employment as a cutter in a clothing factory. 12 months later, she left to start what she referred to as a dream job, cutting up Oriful. This is weird. And don't do this to me, Stephen Hawking. There we go.
Awful
at a local laboratory. Oh, slaughterhouse. Basically, slaughterhouse. They used a big word for a different word. So basically, she was cutting up Oriful at a local slaughterhouse. There, she was quickly promoted to Bonning and was given her own set of butcher knives. At home, the knives were hung over the bed so that she would always be handy if she needed them. Wow. Okay. A habit she continued until her incarceration, where everywhere she lived. That would be signs for me. Knight first met co-worker David Stanford Kelly in 1973. Kelly engaged in heavy drinking, which stemmed from 2 traumatic incidences from a previous railway job in Coffin Harbor. First, when his best friend was killed in front of him in a stunning accident, and later when he rescued injured occupant of a school bus in Camsley, which had been struck by a train, killing 6 children. He eventually lost the job due to devastating behavior and performance because he's drinking. But he soon got work at a nearby Aberdeen slaughterhouse, becoming close friends with Nine's brother. Often, if Caitlin got into a fight, David, Knight would step in and back him up with her fists. In Aberdeen, she was known for physically threatening anyone who upset her. Knight married David in 1974 at her request, with the couple arriving at the service at her on her motorcycle with a very intoxicated David on the peloton. It was soon as they arrived, Knight's mother, Barbara, gave Kelly some advice. The old girl, Knight's mother, said to me to watch out. You better watch this one or she'll fucking kill you. Oh, this is talking to David. Stir her up the wrong way or do the wrong thing and you're fucked. Don't ever think of playing up on her, cheating on her, basically. She'll fucking kill you. And that was her mother talking. That was her mother talking. She told me she got something loose. She got a screw loose somewhere. God, if that was the advice my mother or my mother-in-law gave me for when on the Mary, I would like tuck tail and run. Yeah, I can go into the heat of battle anytime you want. I'll go in a fire. But this is a life choice, and life choices shouldn't be like, suicidal almost. This is what it basically it's coming down to. It's one of those things. It's like, oh, you're married, we're gonna plan the funeral type jokes that a lot of people give, but this is literally one of those. On their wedding night, Knight tried to strangle David. She later explained it was because he fell asleep after only having intercourse 3 times. Jesus! I'm trying to think if I've ever. No, I've never had that, so that's good. The marriage proved particularly violent, and on one occasion, a heavily pregnant Knight burnt all of David's clothes and shoes before hitting him across the back of the head with a frying pan stuff, simply because he had arrived home late from a dart competition after reaching the finals. In fear for his life, David fled before collapsing in the neighbor's house and was treated with several fractured skull. Police wanted to charge Knight, but she changed her behavior to rating David and talking to him and dropping the charges. Okay. I'm curious. I just want to look at what she looks like right now. I'll save it and post it online, because from what I'm gathering, she wasn't an attractive woman. She doesn't really look. Yeah, not my cup of tea. I would be safe. A few days later, Knight slashed the woman. Wait a minute. I have gone too far. In May 1976, shortly after the birth of their first child, Melissa Ann Knight, David left Knight for another woman and moved to Queensland. Apparently unable to cope with the abuse, the next day, Knight was seen pushing her new baby in a pram down this main street, violently throwing a pram from side to side. What's the pram? I guess the person that wrote all this stuff for this one
Pram.
was basically from Australia, because there's a lot of terms in here. I don't know what they are. Oh, buggy, baby carriage for us in the United States. She was admitted in St. Elmo's Hospital in Thornworth, where she was diagnosed with postpartum depression and spent several weeks recovering. After being released, Knight placed 2-month-old Melissa in the railway line shortly before a train was due. She then stole an axe, went into town threatening to kill several people. A vagrant known in the district as Old Ted, who was foraging nearby the railway line. Foraging, I guess he was like dumpster diving. Found and rescued Melissa. Thank God for that guy. Yes, just goes to show people that sometimes the people that have most of the stuff go down on. It looks like a vagrant. In most countries, it's basically a homeless person, but that homeless person stood up and became a hero that day. Found and rescued Melissa. By all accounts, only minutes before the train passing, Knight was arrested again, took into St. Elmo's Hospital, but apparently she recovered and signed herself out the following day. God, after that, I would just... not to down out on any kind of cops or anything like that actually listen, and hopefully you can give some comments and everything on this on the YouTubes or anything else. There's sometimes there's cops out there and police departments out there that just don't want to do the 10 forward, and sometimes it's not even that. It's more or less the laws that are hindered to stop them from doing that. There's a lot of laws nowadays that are being enacted in certain parts of the United States that I'm just, wow, really? Why are you not letting the cops just do their job? A few days later, Knight slashed the face of a woman with one of her knives and demanded she drive her Queensland to find David. The woman escaped after they stopped at a gas station. But by the time police arrived, Knight was taking a young boy hostage and was threatening him with a knife. She was disarmed when police attacked her with brooms and was admitted to Morissette Psychiatric Hospital. Knight was told the nurses she was intending to kill the mechanic at the service station because he had repaired David's car, which had allowed him to leave, and then killed both her husband and his mother when she arrived at Queensland. Then police informed David of the incident. He left his girlfriend and moved to Aberdeen with his mother to support Knight. Oh God. Knight was then released on the 9th of August, 1976, into a care of her mother-in-law, and along with David, from Ipswich, a city west of Brisbane, where she obtained a job as a Denmore Meatworks, basically another slaughterhouse. On 6th of 1983, they had another daughter, Natasha Marine. In 1984, Knight left David and moved first to her parents' house in Aberdeen, then to a rent house in Muswellbrook. Although she returned to work in the slaughterhouse, she injured her back the following year and went to a disability pension. No longer needing to rent accommodation close to her work, the government gave her housing accommodations and residence in Aberdeen. Now we're going to go ahead because she's had two other. She had another person after David in 1997. She married John Killingsworth, 43-year-old former slaughterhouse worker. But we're going to get to the murder of Mr. John Price. Uh, in February 2000, a series of assaults on Price complained with Knight stabbing him in the chest. So it was already affirmed that she was trying to kill him. Finally fed up, he kicked her out of his house on the 29th of February. He stopped at a Scone Magistrate Court on his way to work and took a restraining order in the attempts to keep her away from both himself and his children. Now, I hate to say this now, but I've never really felt comfortable with a restraining order. Always get one if you feel threatened by somebody, only because it sets everything up if something happens to, like, now I'll defend myself with any means necessary. Saying that, though, set yourself up so you don't look like the villain of the story. Get a restraining order. Verify that anytime that person comes to your residence, there is, you don't have to dial 911. Everybody's like, dial 911. No, dial the police department themselves. Tell them, hey, and even if the person's coming in to get something from their house, you have verification and written data and everything that this person, and sometimes they'll send, if the day's like really slow, you'll send a uniformed officer to make sure everything goes copacetic. I've had to deal with this a couple of times, not personally, but I was there for the other person, and the other person, luckily a friend of mine, I knew that a lot of the people that I know are from the police department and everything like that. I've had people that are actually licensed officers, and yes, you have to be licensed to be an officer of the law. Came, and if there was an incident, they had an incident report they had to file, which the other person he was like shaking his head. It's like, I don't really want to do this because I know I'm going to have to write the report. And it's everybody wants to do less work no matter what. Police department, fire department, any kind of job you go to, everybody's the same on that. Everybody wants to do less work, and yes, boring is better sometimes. But anyways, but get the data going for you on situations like this, to where you know the person's might do something down the road. You feel uncomfortable with that person. Always get something in writing. Hey, you've had problems with this person. This has to be done this way. I'm asking for help, but just a small amount of helps with this person, and that's trying to get in my life. Sometimes the only relief on this is like moving to a different town, but hopefully the person doesn't follow you. That afternoon, Price told his coworker that if he didn't come to work the next day, it was because Knight had murdered him. Beside their pleas that Price should not return home, he stated that he was afraid of Knight with his kid, would kill his children if he didn't. Price arrived at home to find that Knight, although not there herself, had sent the children away for a sleepover to a friend's house. He then spent the evening with his neighbors before returning home and going to bed at 11 p.m. Earlier that day, Knight had brought a new black lingerie and had videotaped all of her children's making comments, which had since been interpreted as cruel will. Oh my God. Cruel will, just a little reference. It's just something that I don't even know. Hold on. Let me see. I'm kind of curious of this because there's a lot of, just get our crude will. Well, no. Get a definition. No, not crude oil. I can't get a reference on that. Sorry, people. I tried. She later arrived at Price's house while he was sleeping, and sat watching TV for a few minutes before having a shower. She then woke Price, and they had sex. After which he fell asleep. At 6 a.m. the next day, the neighbors became concerned that Price's car was still in the driveway, and when he did not arrive at work, his employer sent a worker to see what was wrong. Both the neighbor and the worker tried knocking on Price's bedroom window to wake him, but they alerted police after noticing blood on the floor. Police arrived at 8 a.m., breaking down the back door. Police found Price's body with night comatose from taking a large number of pills. She had stabbed Price with a butcher knife while he was asleep. According to the blood evidence, he woke and tried to turn the light on before attempting to escape, while Knight chased him through the house. He managed to open the front door and get outside, but he either stumbled back inside or was dragged back in the hallway, where he finally died after bleeding out. Later, Knight went into Aberdeen and withdrew $1,000 from Price's account at an ATM. Price's autopsy revealed that he had been stabbed 37 times in both the front and back of his body, with as many wounds extending into vital organs. Several hours after Price had died, Knight skinned him, hung the skin from a meat hook on the archway from a doorway to the lounge room, I guess the dining room. She had decapitated Price and cooked parts of the body, serving up the meat with a baked potato, pumpkin, beetroot. It was two-sided. God. Okay. She served the meat of this guy's body with baked potato, pumpkin, beetroot, zucchini, cabbage, yellow squash, and gravy in two settings at the dining room table, along with the note besides each plate, each having the name of one of the Price's children on it. She prepared to serve the body parts to his children. A third meal was thrown on the back lawn for unknown reason, and it was speculated that Knight had attempted to eat it but could not. This had been put forward in support of her claims that she had no memory of the crime. Price's head was found in a pot with vegetables. The pot was still warm, estimated between 40 to 50, 144 and 122 degrees Fahrenheit, indicating the cooking had taken place early in the morning. Sometimes later, Knight arranged the body with the left arm draped over the empty 1.25-liter soft drink bottle with the legs crossed. God. This is the second time we've done Psychos and Sociopaths. It's just past couple of weeks, Jeffrey Dahmer ones, a couple of ones that were just fucked. I could barely read. Blood stained and covered with small pieces of flesh. To read was a note. Time got you back, Jonathan, for raping my daughter. You to Beck, Princess daughter, for Ross, for Little John's son. Now play with Little John's dick, John Price. Yeah, he originally, looking back at John Price, he was the father of 3 children when Knight had an affair with him, reputed a traffic bloke liked by everyone who knew him. On his own marriage had ended in 1988, while the two-year-old daughter had remained with his former wife. The 2 older children lived with him. Price was well aware of Knight's violent reputation, as she had moved into his house in 1995. His children liked her. He was making a lot of money working in local mines, and apart from violent arguments at first, life was a bunch of roses. No mention of any kind of raping or anything. I guess this is just her past life that she felt that she was raped. At the trial, this is the last part, people. Knight initially offered to pleaded guilty to manslaughter, was rejected, and she was arraigned on the 2nd of March 2001 on the charges of murdering Price, to which she entered a plea of not guilty. Her trial was initially fixed for not fixed like they fixed the trial, but it was fixed to go to trial July 23rd, 2001, but it was not due at that time due to her counseling illness, and was refixed in October 5th, 2001. When the trial commenced, Judge Barry O'Keefe offered the 60 jury prospects the option of being excused due to the nature of the photographic evidence, which 5 accepted. When the witnesses list was read out in the prospect, several more also dropped out, after which the jury was impaneled. Ninth jury then spoke to the judge, who adjourned the following day. The next morning, Ninth changed her plea to guilty, and the jury was dismissed. It was then made public that Justice O'Keefe had been advised of the plea change the day before. He had adjourned the trial and then ordered a psychological assessment over Ninth, determined Ninth understood the consequences of a guilty plea and was fit to make such plea. Ninth legal team had planned to defend Ninth by claims amnesia and disassociation, which I've dealt with a lot of working corrections and everything. I've dealt with people literally trying to get out of what they've done. Any kind of police department or police or any kind of people that work in law enforcement. And I've always had this thing to where looking on people is like, oh, this person, it wasn't my fault. It was because of the A, B, and C that happened, or the cops were against me, or it's because of my race, and I was in the wrong neighborhood and everything, or I felt oppressed. It's something stupid simple. The basic fact is you have the ability to make changes in your own lives. You choose to do A, B, or C, which a lot of times could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, depending on what your decision on that change is. Like, I need money, so I'm going to go rob somebody. Or I need money. I got to come pull up stuff I need to get rid of, which sadly to say right now, I'm actually doing that because I'm trying to change my life for the better. And yes, there's people able to help me out, but I don't want to be in a situation to where I'm leaning on people. I never want to use crutches, so to speak. If I have stuff to change my life that I have that I just get rid of, I'll get rid of. Not a person that really needs stuff. As long as I have a TV, my phone now, since I need internet and access to phone calls, getting hold of people and everything like that, I'm happy. I have a big screen TV, but I mostly use my phone, which is really funny. But getting back to the story, no reason has ever been given for a guilty plea Despite giving it, Knight still refused to accept the responsibilities or actions, which we already covered at the sentence hearing. Knight's lawyer requests that she be excused to avoid the hearing some of the facts, but words. Glad I did it this time for Emma.
Application.
The application was refused when Timothy Lyons took the stand and described the skinning and decapitation. Knight became hysterical and had to be stated. On the 8th of November, Justice O'Keefe pointed out that the nature of the crimes and Knight's lack of remorse recurred a severe penalty. He sentenced her to life imprisonment, refused to fix a non-parole period, ordered that her papers be marked never to be released. The first time that this had been imposed on a woman in Australian history. In June 6, Knight appealed the life sentence, claiming the penalty of life imprisonment without possibility of proposal too severe for the killing. Justice Peter McKinley, Michael Adams, and Megan Latham dismissed the appeal in the South Wales Court of Criminal Appeals in September, and the Justice McLean, writing in his judgment, this was an appalling crime that almost beyond comprehension in civilized society, which that's it on that one. But in all reality, it is totally right. Sorry, folks. That is absolutely right. The situations and stuff like this was totally appalling and disgusting, in my opinion. And she really shouldn't be. And from the data of her life and everything, yes, she's had some problems and everything, but she chose to not to improve herself. She just became a victim of her circumstances, of what she's actually lived through, and made it worse. And she did not decide to better herself. But on that note, is it being the finish of this, in my opinions on that one. I'm David Dickman. Thank you for watching Psychos and Sociopaths, the Katherine Knight tale and court proceedings. Hopefully you got all the information. Sorry this seems so drawl or whatnot on this one, but I think it felt out pretty well. Hopefully we can get Johnny back in the back on and help me out on this stuff. But if not, I'll just do these by myself. Thank you for everybody for watching. Thank you for watching with us, and good night, everybody.